So today I'd like to talk about emotional energy centers from the body and wisdom that we cultivate. So energy centers of the body are invisible. An energy center that's physical would be something like a muscle, but there is no one muscle. You might say the heart, right? You might say the sphincter of the anus or the tongue. There's no one muscle that is able to be responsible for the invisible energy, because those cells, no one cell itself has all of the energy inside of it. So the energy center means that there's no physical container for the energy. The center of the energy, it has a focal point. It's where we can find what I mentioned in a previous video is called the nexus, where light meets vessel. Here I'm saying where energy meets vessel. So a muscle fiber is made up of string cells, kind of, and that's what we call fascia. Fascia have an enormous amount of capsuled energy. And we also, many of us are familiar with the word mitochondria, which we would say is like energy center of a cell. These are like separate bacterias that were, or they're cells that are different and resemble bacteria and have a spiritual wisdom to do with light, to do with motion, and they signal a lot of processes to happen in a cell that cause a cascade of events, which involve nearby cells, which involve cells in different parts of the body that have to send information or chemical like resources, like substances, to be building things with and destroying things with, and to send messages, even kill yourself to a cell that's having a problem with the organ, or a cell, it might tell a cell, stop repressing yourself, start expressing yourself. And this is all possible to be seen spiritually. So emotional energy centers of the body here, I've just mentioned two examples of physical and spiritual. We'd say spiritual, you have, there's no one localized person, but there could be groups, there could be practices. There's no one localized moment, but there's a flow. It's like, right, so these are the two main examples. And I'm going to be talking now about emotional centers. So emotional centers will now correlate with physical centers, and they will have a spiritual element. And how we can look at it is like these mitochondria are like these little sparks that trigger anti-trauma. So if you take away an electron, it is a void that operates like positive energy. So for example, a woman with you take away the man that she was with, she now operates with this space in her that's sending out something. And when there's something there, it cannot send the message out. So when the electron is present, there's no energy there as an energy center, but only in the space of its absence, because of, for example, it's in a field where there's so much high magnetism or electricity input that it is responding to the environment. That space now has its own kind of entity. The space now acts like a positive. And we would even say that anger, a new way of looking at it, we've heard righteous anger, we've heard holy rage, and if you haven't, it means when you stand up for what's wrong in the world and you fight the devil on the inside and the outside in such a way that you won't stand, even in your family and your friends. It's part of many people's journey to wholeness, where we stop having favorites, even our versions of ourselves in the past that we're seeing in front of us, or even people we want to approve of us, or people who seem to represent strong connections. We are willing to let that fire burn bridges, because we know that the truth is a deeper bridge, and the deeper bridge between us will last as this more superficial bridge that keeps us stuck. It's like we have a big string between us that's 6 feet long, but we got glued at 3 feet. If we burn this 3 feet, we actually are still connected, but we have more space. And that space activates like a positive pull. It pulls in positive energy. Or not that it pulls in positive energy, is that it's a sucking energy that now starts to behave like a sending energy. And it almost is emitting, what it's looking for its electron, right? It's like the electron is gone, now there's a void. The void is now looking for its it's like sending out a sucking, trying to send out this connection, right, to that. So now I'm going to talk about what emotional energy centers of the body. Emotions here is energy and motion, right? So it's like this space that is the space between me and you, the energy there that's looking for the resolution. Maybe I took on too much or too little. These are some places in the body and some understanding meaning like the deeper bridge of the truth that it could sit on when there's a space there. So when the space is there, a lot of things can happen that cause for energy to be released, like that muscle. Suddenly now we need to reach, we need to crunch, we need to do that thing that we require more energy than just at rest. But there's untapped energy. Having a strong muscle means I could use it in other moments aside from when I'm actively strengthening it. The muscle itself stays strong. So this also works the opposite way. If we're overly, not necessarily am I calling this hypervigilance because it's not so much of a state that I'm referring to, but there's burden areas like responsibility. For example, shoulders symbolize carrying a heavy load or the weight of the world. So for just a moment, I'm bringing in the practice of letting there be more space in the shoulders in exactly the way that I've just described. And then the throat center is the self-expressed issues. It's like a lack of trust, lack of nurturing, an inability to speak feelings. When we have more space there, nurturing, that sending out of a sucking pulls in nurturing, trust, ability to speak feelings. So letting what's there kind of go. Just letting what's there go. And emotional healing has a lot to do with letting go of these emotions. They just have to pass through. So feeling in the shoulders, a release. Just actively paying attention to what it feels like to let go of the shoulders. And then actively paying attention to what it feels like to let go of the throat. And then actively paying attention now to the heart. And we see there's grief, sorrow, sadness, and loss. Emptiness of heart, lack of love, cruelty, embarrassment, meanness, shame, humiliation, even a genetic or ancient memory, helplessness, repressed feelings, disillusionment, disappointment, aloneness. Letting those energies that might cause us to have an emotional blockage of the heart, letting them just move, like they're there and now they're not. Because now we can have the things like a healthier appointment of healthier expectation, healthier standards, more trust of ourselves and less of putting ourselves in vulnerable situations. We're forgiving ourselves for the mistakes we made and saying, I know it was so hard and it hurt. We're giving ourselves what the sucking energy needs, which is like when we make that space, it's sending out a need for kindness. So be the kindness now and say, I see you, I feel you, it hurts. And then going to the fear center, which is like the solar plexus and the phobias. This is where we lose control, giving power over to another person and relationships. And just feeling that sense of when we release it, there's an empty space. We're now sending out the energy of the need, which is like for control and power, trust, unguardedness. So like welcoming, open, invited, belonging. By just allowing this part of our body to be more real. And maybe it needs some gratitude, like thank you for being so strong. Thank you for digesting, and thank you for helping me breathe, and you're actually doing a great job. I'm still here. couldn't do it without you. And then we move to the old stuff center, which is like the navel. This is like family or sexual issue conditioning from childhood, maybe violation of personal space or body space, or abuse, even molestation, rape, something done to us or something taken from us without permission, impotence, frigidity. Feeling in the navel area. Maybe you think first just like identifying with like the umbilical cord was cut. It was like a violation. It was like when it was all one and then it was cut off. And then bringing the space here and feeling protection and feeling edges and boundaries, limits, respect, decisions, choices, family. And now we go to our support centers. On the left side is emotional. It's the outermost hips. So now we go to like the hips outside the pelvis, like where it still connects with the navel, sort of. So now leaking out of the right side from the top, like the navel leaking down on the hip. Financial. And maybe where we violated ourselves financially, or we were violated financially, or money came in, or we were robbed or stolen from or scammed. There wasn't enough money for us. Our portion wasn't respected. And then the left side, emotional, feeling that there wasn't enough room for our emotions, or we had to take on emotions that were not ours, or we were told our emotions that weren't true. We stopped being able to identify our emotions. We didn't know we were allowed to have emotions. Other people's emotions were like free for all. They call it hefker in Hebrew. And now we move into like the waist a little higher, and we see where there's an up-down motion coming. So we're going to start with the right waist. The right waist is like the anger center. Think of about where your appendix is, and rage. And this is anger at ourselves. Others, it's like kinds of jealousy, resentment. Why'd you do it that way? Why didn't you do it that way? Why did I get what I got? Why do I have this family? Why did I get this man? Why did I get this woman? Why did I get this body, this voice, this house, this fridge, sink? Why did I get this? It's not fair. My health, my bank account, this part of my body, these thoughts, these family members, work people, disabilities, lacks. And then the left side now we go, this is guilt, or this is unworthiness center. I'm unacceptable, I'm not deserving of the good that life has for me. Inability to accept and receive, and shame, guilt, self-criticism, self-judgment, seeing everything wrong, seeing why I'm bad. Remember, this is left waist. Now we go to the survival center, which is the pelvis, the root. I mean, this is really the first year of life, our basic creativity, and it's impotence, frigidity, accidents, rape, violence, abuse, violations that are related to surviving, basically. Feeling that we won't survive a life-threatening incident, that we're not going to make it. Excuse me. Maybe we were very sick, injured, someone was ripped away, very scary. Our home, our job, something ripped away. It felt like it was giving us livelihood. It was a way that we were feeling vitality, feeling connection, feeling safety. Welcome in, we're going to be okay. Trust the process, let it go. Like I said, the string that we're holding so tight, we're holding on, gripping, we let it burn away now, and we realize there's a longer string, a much stronger string. It's like when you try to build a bike out of silver foil versus carbon fiber, aluminum. It's very different types of aluminum. So just letting these aluminum foil like connections in the pelvis, like I'm going to do all these things to keep myself safe, and I'm going to be in control of everything, just letting it all go, and kind of like it is going to be what it's supposed to be. Like I said, the first year of life, so the basic unity, creativity, fundamental power and oneness, right? Fundamental newness and like novelty. And we go on the left side of the pelvis. This is like a betrayal center. So the betrayal having to do with someone, ourselves, or someone we trusted. Feeling there's a sense of trust, making better decisions. In other words, allowing things to be revealed that if we ignored or had reservations and we swept it under the rug, eventually it would still come out. So seeing on the left side of the pelvis that it still comes out even if we sweep it under the rug. So now we just choose integrity, honesty, showing up real, not looking to other people to give our fantasy any validity. And then on the right side is abandonment, heart pain, rejection center, basically judgment from others or ourselves, kind of criticism that we get stuck on, like it feels like it rejects us. We feel too fundamentally connected, so now we let go. We're many different versions, and it was just someone's opinion, including the opinion we took on that we think is real. And we're going to be abandoned sometimes. It's like a course correction, a recalibration. So just letting it go in the right pelvis, the right hip, inside. That on our way forward, we're going to actually leave people behind. And we have to be a place of happiness and health, kindness, creativity, so that people who visit us know peace, our peace. And so in this right part of the hip, we recognize that we're going to make peace with ourselves now. And now I'm going to move into once we have clear energy centers. See, in just 18 minutes, I feel like we could really do an enormous amount of progress. So in spirituality, a lot of things come up because it's all obvious. The unseen is seen and you can't hide. Like a dog hiding its head under the bed and thinking it's hiding, even while the rest of its body is sticking out. Or a kid with cookie crumbs around the mouth, but even believing, I didn't eat it. And so we idolize the version sometimes that could see what we're hiding and doesn't need to be told. It knows, and we either want to be that or believe someone else is that. And this a lot of times with gurus or people, we think that they're going to be the one who could really see us. So it's like we want to be seen, but we also don't want to be seen. And there's remnants, right? So an aspect of being treated like a spiritual parasite means some radiating fundamental goodness is being blocked. It was inherently good, so we have to be willing to face doubts in order to soothe. And I have a version of myself that's a comforter and needed some people to have to suffer for that to not be true. I'm ready to let it go and show up as I am for the sake of everyone feeling better and facing where I use others having needs as a way to make sure they buy into general needs so they could support me and help me in my general needs. So it's like this version of wanting to be seen and wanting to hide, like wanting to misbehave and make a scene, cry, scream, and be like the sick one, and wanting it all to be seen, and even saying mean things, not getting punished, demanding unconditional love, presence, attention of an observer. But then again, there's almost nothing to rely on. Like, why did I observe so much that refuses to observe me? So it was a cop-out because they were willing to do that for me, and I wanted it so bad, but I had to do all this misbehaving. I gave much more energy. Just getting a witness would have been much easier and not use this much energy. So that's being exposed is a way of having a witness without having to do so much just to get seen as having a desire. So exposed that I need to be soothed or comforted instead of trying to hide it, which removes any chance of there being a hiding place because it all has to be in plain sight spiritually. Where we have the eye, like the vision, the spiritual eye, it's all obvious, it's all out there. When we're looking with a spiritual eye, we see everything that's spiritually. So I was seen outward. For example, I smoked weed to go inward, indulging myself in company rather than being good company, because I didn't want to be a burden or an interruption. So it makes being alone easier, but I wanted to be more divine and more able to love, and even just a few people enough to give up. To satisfy the need to sacrifice means there has to be one I can love as much as me, and it's like I came here to sacrifice my life for someone, the idea of what I used to think was always my man. So it's like daily, it needs to be a dose of godly love, alone, to be able to love anyone else. So it's like raising a child or many children, or marrying someone who's dependent, disabled, alcoholic, or addict, or meeting the parts of someone that they glued into a pretty face in a moment of revelation of an unexpected fragmentation. So it's like I see the space between all the parts. Suddenly I realize they're not who I thought. They're just showing me all the good pieces squished together to try to make it look nice. But actually there's a whole big messy, dirty thing behind. And it's recognizing finally that I am a soothing presence. It's lonely to give life, to share it. It seems to someone who doesn't appreciate me. So it's like we have to remember we're begging God with all our spirit to be here with us on earth. And it reminds me I used to do that a lot more. Like I used to beg. Like I used to say, yeah. Like I used to try to call out. Just, someone to count on, loving, compassionate, who cares about me. Who could never be mean to me just because they could be mean. They wouldn't just like, when they want to hurt me for that reason. Because they could. So anyway, that's what I have to share today. And I hope it was helpful. And I wish you a beautiful weekend. No video tomorrow. It's a Sabbath. So I'll see you hopefully on Sunday, God willing, for another video on a similar topic. Be well.